Right.
Hey, you want
Well,
to like show.
build it and they will come, right? So, we've built an amazing trail network. And as a result, we now have all these supporting businesses to really, you know, flush out the product as far as having the app right after you ride, right? So it's ours, a lot of trail networks in larger centers, especially, it's just a parking lot culture. Their trail network is kilometers away from their downtown core. Our trailhead is literally 2 blocks from Main Street, not even 1 block from Main Street. It's like, again, a recipe for success. So you start and you finish your ride in the downtown core. It's pretty special.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I love that feeling where it feels so cohesive, such a community. Like you said, people that stay here will go to the bakery, then they go to get coffee, then they go to get like a laneway, then they go to get pizza for lunch at Riders, and then they have dinner at Cumberland. It feels like a tight community, and it's just something that's pretty rare these days. But is that how you would feel about the businesses here? Are they pretty cohesive? Or they talk to each other? Like,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's funny though. I can remember the first time when, we talk about the population growth when I was starting a tab at the brewery, and they're like, "And what's your name?" I was like, "Oh, we've grown in population because it's not everybody knows everybody by name so much anymore." And I think about on the trail network too, where you used to say hi to everybody, and you just can't do that now. It's too busy. You just be like, "Hi, hi, hi, hi."
that's like,
Yeah. But I would say from like the business owner perspective, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like herding cats, kind of like, mountain bike culture itself is, although it's become more mainstream, it's always attracted, that it's a bit more counterculture. So, same as starting your own business in a small town. It's risky, and it's generally some different characters that are behind those businesses. But yeah, I mean, like Dan's still wrenching in the shop, so you can see him front and center, and all the owners are still, on the tools. So yeah, there is that relationship with everybody. So, well, I guess there's a couple of different things. Like the one is the dollar spend, right? And we kind of talked about that, like, donating to the club, and that's great, right? Like the club's got a $500,000 budget now. And if you do come ride the network, it's in phenomenal shape. Like the money does go back into the trails. It's incredible riding right now. The other is that volunteer aspect, right? So, and the club has to have capacity to harness that energy, whether it's, volunteer trail days or like you said, taking pictures, and somebody still has to organize that. There's still an administrative component, and that just speaks to the success of the club to be able to harness that energy of whether it's somebody coming, short haul rubber tire traffic or a new resident. Again, like I say, it speaks to the capacity and success of the club. And then, the other thing too is like we're kind of talking about, well, new residents and people like tourists coming in, but Cumberland is really the mountain bike destination for the Comox Valley too, right? So you've got Courtney and Comox, so people are, you see it, they're coming into town after work, and the parking lot's always full. The trail counters reflect the high usage, and I see them, they're still taking advantage of Cumberland's amenities, the dining, the yeah, the après ride. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you talk about the brewery, well, before it was the brewery, it was Ryder's Pizza, like, it's Mike and Caroline who started that, and they came, and, they were from Alberta, they had successful careers there, and they came and they just started small. It was literally a hole in the wall pizza joint. They worked on their recipes, and they wanted to get a feel for the community. I mean, my kids were like this tall when they started that. And then, it they've They really embedded themselves in the community. They didn't just come in and throw down a whack of cash and start huge. They started small and built up from there. And I think they also recognize the importance of having the word Cumberland in their business with Cumberland Brewery, because of the United Riders of Cumberland and because of what it represents and what people think of when they think of Cumberland.
How have you seen that transition, like, to play out over the last few years? So as you guys are getting a land use agreement, as you getting trails, like businesses are starting to come to town, more people, tourists are coming to town and stuff like that. How did that feel for you as somebody that's been here for so long?
Well, that's a big question, right?
Yeah,
And we've seen a lot of change here,
yeah,
and um, because URock has created something that's pretty good, a legitimate. It's amazing, a legitimate destination mountain biking trail network. And you said it yourself. You saw it. You wanted to move here, and you're not the only one. And to be frank, that's why I moved here, right? Well, because it was the outdoors that called to me, um, and so we've seen that population growth. I think when I moved here, there was 2,826 people, and now we're 4,000, give or take, plus or minus. So that's significant growth. And it's because of, the events, the trail network, the events that showcase the trail network. Trail Forks has been a big part of that. It's really, broken down barriers to mountain bike tourism. It's really enabled the rider to get out there and experience these destination networks. I've used it myself when traveling. It's great. But the question like you're asking, is how has it affected the village? Well, when we first opened our doors, like, there was 50% vacancy in the downtown core. And now we've got a vibrant, bustling downtown core, which, now I've got kids, they're 17 and 19 now, but they've both had after school jobs here in businesses that can thrive in our downtown. So I think it's a benefit that there's an economy around mountain biking in this community.
how would you explain to somebody that's moving here or wants to open a business here, like the best way to, yeah, be a positive influence?
Be a positive part of the community.
Yeah,
Well, I think you touched on it. Like, just be involved, get involved. Become a sponsor of the club. Go to the AGM, get informed, go to community meetings. Yeah, I guess, think about it, like when I was looking at moving here, researching the community, attending council meetings. At the time we opened our business, they were revamping the official community plan. We hosted community meetings here at the hostel. Um, yeah, just being active and engaged, and wanting to participate in that community, not just showing up, riding, and not contributing. The guests that stay here at the Riding Fool, like they show up, whether they're coming from South Island, the Lower Mainland, wherever. They park their car and they just ride all weekend, and they're eating at the bakery, getting trail snacks. They're going to the brewery. They're going to Riders Pizza. They're getting their coffee from Dark Side, and that's why those businesses are doing. They're thriving, right? So I see it, and then they don't get back in their car until they go to leave. So I would say they are supporting local. And I would also say the club um, does well with their signage at the access points to the trail network and various spots throughout the network, with a call to action and a QR code. So if you are a visitor, you can just break out your phone, swipe aside from Trail Forks for a moment, call up the QR code, and donate to the club.
yeah. How would you advise somebody that wants to start a business here?
Ooh, um, yeah, how would I advise somebody who wants to start a business here? I think you touched on it. Like, you have to get a finger on the pulse, and don't tell Cumberland what it needs. Um, figure out what it needs and do that through embedding yourself in the community and spending time here. And don't try and change the community, right? Like um, I mean, we're pretty good. Yeah. I mean, that said, we changed the community with URock too, right? So I guess change is inevitable, and yeah, hard to predict the future. I wouldn't have predicted where we're at today, 20 plus years ago, that's for sure. You referenced Tofino. It's a narrow peninsula. It's bordered by a national park, so it has natural boundaries to stop growth. Um, I think for us, you talk about the Walmarts and the McDonald's and the franchises and the chain stores. Well, I think we'll be able to deflect those and encourage the mom and pop shops and the small businesses, simply because, if you want those other amenities, you can drive 10K down the hill and go to Courtney or Comox, and it's offered and provided there. So I think we should hopefully be able to retain that charm and character in our downtown core. The interchange might change, over time. The new highway, which is again like 25 years old now, we might get some development around there. But I think Cumberland itself, I wouldn't see a franchise on the main street.
You mentioned like the people. You have such a unique opportunity. I've worked in hostels and things. It's like you have such a unique opportunity to meet people that are semi-local. You got people that are, like you said, lower mainland, probably US are coming up here too. Or what's kind of the vibe you get and the feedback you get from people that are visiting?
Oh, they're stoked.
Yeah.
They're stoked on the climbing trail. They're stoked on the community. They're stoked on the entire network. Yeah, they're sharing their stories, their ride plans. And yeah, I mean, as far as who we get, you're right. We get a lot of South Island coming up. You can be here in 2.5 hours from Victoria. Um, and again, they're after that destination product, because if you ride anywhere between here and Victoria, it's just that parking lot culture again. You pull in, you ride, you get changed in your Rubbermaid tote and you go. Whereas here, you have all those amenities we talked about. Um, I remember the first time we got somebody who flew direct from Europe to come to Cumberland, not Whistler, not any other destination, but straight to Cumberland based on our reputation. And that blew me away. And they stayed here, and it's only continued to grow since then.
Cool place.
Yeah, and what we'll often see, we definitely did earlier when we had more availability, is people would come in for a day and end up staying for a week, right? Like, as long as they weren't highly itinerized, then once they came here, they were just like, "Oh, this is a great place. I'm gonna stay longer." Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say we ever had any hopes for the town. We just wanted to build trail and ride. Ultimately, we were young, in our 20s, and weren't really that forward thinking. So it was all about just what we needed to do in the moment. And what I wanted to do was not work for the provincial government. I wanted to be self-employed, and I thought accommodation and mountain biking was a pretty good fit. And I mean, we're still a young sport, right? Like, mountain biking's been around since the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, barely. Yeah, I'd say 90s.
Yeah. So a very new sport, and we opened our doors in 2003. Um, and like I said, we weren't really, looking to grow population or have amenity migration or anything like that. We just wanted to go out there and build trail and ride our bikes ultimately. And then it just evolved organically with that need for advocacy and to formalize. So, Mike would, would always joke that we're mountain bikers turned politicians, and to some degree we were, but that's what it took. And again, with no thought to the future, just how do we solve this problem now, and of legitimizing the trail network. And and the club did a really good job with that. And, again, we shared our experiences with other clubs up and down the island, and they've had a variety of success in their own right. Arrington, the Aerosmith Mountain Bike Club just signed a land use agreement, I think it was last year, and we're starting to see the impacts on their trail network of that. So starting with signage, kind of same thing that we did. You have to do an inventory of your trails, deal with any safety issues, and it's some hard work in the tough sledding in the early days, right? You don't actually get to see a lot of that um, money, or not money, but time go back into the trails initially, because you're dealing with this backlog of, volunteer built bridges that aren't necessarily to standard, because that's what you've signed on for with the land use agreement, is you're committing to a standard across your trail network. So we had to do an inventory of the nail trail network as it was at that time, and prioritize what needed to be fixed. And now, would we say 17 years later, now we're in the rider experience, and it's just like, yeah, let's go tweak vanilla and make it awesome, right? So, um, yeah, but it's tough sledding in the early days for sure.